verse or chorus, and I'll tell you which is which. Then I'll tell you that this form is called an octastitch. I'm pants at reading music, and I don't have perfect pitch. But when it comes to writing songs, I've got to scratch that itch. HFO goes live on air, we all expect a glitch. 'Cause every show I do, I know that I will find a hitch. I'm not expecting what I do to ever make me rich. I'm having fun with making music here right now with you on Twitch.
Good evening, one and all. Hello to Array of Emotions and to Riako Music, who say things are fine. I've had a bit of a cough today, but it's okay, says Mel. Glad you're feeling okay, and I hope you're looking after yourselves over there in Belgium. It's March the 4th, Form February Album Writing Month, the challenge in which some of us went a little bit mad and tried to write 14 songs in the 28 days of February is over. I have some February Album Writing Month website news for you, so stay tuned on that. I thought I'd do something a bit different this week. I haven't got 8 songs to share with you today, as I did on Sunday nights, because I'm now on the downward curve from the manic phase of finishing off February Album Writing Month. But Array of Emotion says, "Ooh, I see a towel." You do indeed, because this is the 42nd Thursday night show that I've done live streaming on Twitch. I am amazed that I'm still doing this after 42 weeks, and even more amazed and flabbergasted and surprised and flattered that people are showing up to say hello in the chat and watch and join me on my journey as I sit in my freshly renovated studio making music. And that's what I'm going to cover today. In fact, we'll get the public service announcement out of the way first, shall we? And it has to do with what happens to Form after February Album Writing Month starts. Back in the very early days, the site just shut down. It went away. Over the last few years, the site has stayed up so people can listen to each other's songs the whole year round until January, when all of last year's songs get erased and the forums get reset, yada, yada, yada. Not happening this year. Instead, Burr has decided, and I totally agree with his decision, and it's a great reason for doing it, the site will go into hibernation on April the 14th, which means that there'll just be a landing page. You won't be able to listen to people's stuff. You won't be able to leave comments on other people's songs, and signing up will take place by email. And there's a lot of reasons why Burr's taken the decision to do this, but one of the big ones is that after about the middle of April, it's tumbleweeds. And the only people who make free and extensive use of the February Album Writing Month website by the middle of May are spammers. And I mean, even today, in the last couple of hours, I've suspended 4 accounts of people who are just, make money fast, get your assignments written, buy our dodgy products. So Burr's going to stop that. And we hope that will stop the February Album Writing Month site being such a magnet for spammers, frankly. So what it means is, if you're going to do your commenting, if you're going to listen to other people's stuff, if you've done stuff of your own and you want to make a record of it, you have to go to your profile like that. You click on archive and you get an HTML file of all your song, liner notes, lyrics, comments left, and then right at the bottom, scrolly, you get all your soundboard comments at the end. So you need to do that. You want to see that again, just as it was quite quick. So on the toolbar, go to your little profile page, photograph, click on the little triangle next to it, and then select archive. Simple as that. And then just right click, save page as HTML file. You don't need, well, there aren't any images, so you could save it as a text file if you want. There aren't even any links in it. So it's not a very big file. If you want to save your songs, make sure that you have copies on your hard drive backed up. So download the MP3s. If the MP3s were all you have of the song, you want to make your own personal copies of those. I really recommend, if you want to put your stuff somewhere where other people can listen to it, go to Bandcamp, because not only do Bandcamp provide fairly robust tactics against spam, which quite frankly SoundCloud do not and have never done. Bandcamp also allows you the opportunity to monetize your work. And I would point out that tomorrow is Bandcamp Friday once again, which is when Bandcamp waive their transaction share of any transactions that take place between 8 a.m. tomorrow morning GMT and 8 a.m. Saturday morning GMT, because Bandcamp run on Pacific time, which would be midnight to midnight on Friday. Here endeth the public service announcement. There you go. That was quite painless, wasn't it? So, yeah, I'm one of the mods who scans the February Album Writing Month website quite regularly, and although some spammers are quite easy to spot, some lurk. They're like sleeper agents, and then you find that they've spammed other people's soundboards with random comments of, that was a really good post and I think you ought to check out my blog, at which point they get deleted. But yeah, so it will be nice not worrying about the February Album Writing Month website becoming a hotbed of spammers, because some of the businesses that advertise are questionable, to say the least. But enough of that. Moving on. Music. I did a lot of music during the last month. In fact, there are 32 pieces of music on my form profile. I had a lot of lovely comments from people saying, oh, that sounds really good. And 14 people, 14 mark you, said, oh, that really sounds like Bowie, which is like, oh. I mean, I don't, but I did grow up in Bromley, so maybe it's the accent that does it. But one of the comments, in fact, a couple of the comments, I did a song called 120-second Thoughts. Here it is. I'll play it you. Why not? I'm feeling generous. So this track's called 120-second Thoughts. that was 120-second thoughts because it's a 2-minute song. You see what I did there. Lovely comments. And like Torno Jaws, my Scandinavian heavy metal friend, says, dude, it's so 80s, it just might be criminal. And Eargoggle says, that's so 80s. I really could not get that sound if I tried really, really hard. And I'm amazed at anyone who can. And that got me thinking. And that's what tonight's show is going to be about. Because you too can get that 80s sound, right? He said, rolling up his sleeves. This show will show you 5 little tricks that you can do in your DAW that will result in your music getting the quintessential 80s sound. Okay, so let's get on with it, shall we? The first thing that I'm going to talk about is the desk, right? Mixing desk, stuff like that. In the late 1970s, a company based in Oxford in England, whose main line of business up to that point had been developing the control systems for church organs, came up and launched at one of the European music fairs a new mixing desk. So this is back in the days when you had Neve and a number of other companies. And this new whippersnapper bunch of guys from Oxford, who called themselves Solid State Logic, introduced a new mixing desk. So this mixing desk, mixer that I've got here, loads of dials on it. So it has a fader for volume. It has EQ. So there's high boost, mid boost cut, low boost cut. There is also a pan pot. That was all pretty standard equipment for every channel on a desk. So there's 24 channels on this. All right, some of them are 22 channels, I beg your pardon, on this. Some of them have some controls different, but on the whole, you've got EQ, you've got volume, you've got pan and stuff like this. What SSL did that nobody had done up until that point was they added a compressor on each channel. And they also added a noise gate. A noise gate is basically a type of compressor where if the signal goes below a certain level, it cuts off completely, so you don't hear anything. If you've got like a very, very hissy amp and you don't want to record the hiss, you just want to record what it does when somebody plays a guitar through it, then dropping a noise gate onto it is a great way of controlling the sound. This little beast, my Black Star ID15 True Valve Power, actually has noise gate built in that you can switch on and off, which I think is astonishing. The first time it kicked in, it was like, oh my God, I've broken my amp, because it went supposed to be making hissing noises. That's what guitar amps do. Nope. So the noise gate and the compressor were huge innovations for individual channels on a mixer, right? You remember a couple of weeks ago, I was also talking about how Hugh Padgham turned on the talkback mic in the studio when Phil Collins was hammering away at the drum kit during the recording of Peter Gabriel 3, and heard the most cavernous drum sound because he'd accidentally put a noise gate on the feed. And the desk that he did that with was an SSL desk. So you can see where this is going. It's like, Chris, I can't afford an SSL desk. You know, apart from anything else, they're about the same size as the bridge of the Starship Enterprise and about as complicated to use. Well, yeah, but you've got a computer your computer can run an emulation of the SSL 4000 series desk. And lo and behold, you can buy an emulation of the channel strip for an SSL 4000 disc at the moment for a mere $36, because Waves have a suite of plugins. There's the SSL channel, which you can see there, which is basically the industry standard SSL desk. Born in the USA, was recorded with SSL channels on it. Nevermind was recorded with SSL desk. So many of the classic hit albums from the 70s, 80s, and 90s were recorded on SSL desks. And you may no doubt not be in the least bit surprised to know that I have the SSL 4000 bundle, because you get not only the E channel, there is also, let's just go down to it. Where's it gone? There's also the G channel, which has different sonic qualities. And, well, I just bought the SSL collection, which also gives you the G equalizer on its own and the G master bus compressor, which goes on the master bus, you know, the final mixdown bus of an SSL desk. And they are rather splendid, and they will do astonishing things to the tonal quality of your mixes. And I mean, the SSLE desk channel strips were known. It was like people heard them for the first time and went, oh God, that's really bright. And I mean, you heard the guitars on that track I just played you. Really bright is where the 80s went. And I think it was driven in no small part by the fact that people were using SSL desks left, right and centre. The first SSL 4000 was installed in Abbey Road, I believe. So that should tell you something about the popularity of the things. So what have I got in this Ableton Live set? I thought I'd talk you through making an 80s sound stuff by gradually turning it into an 80s sound piece of music. So I've got my standard template. Okay, so I've got a drums submixer, and that's the gated reverb on that. There's a second channel on the drums, and that's how you get that drum sound. So we'll come on to that in a minute. But then there's a bass, there's a guitar submix, there's a synth submix, there's a vocal submix, there's an audio submix for anything else I might care to drop into the mix. You see what I did there? And then on the master, there you go. There's just the SSL master bus compressor, which is, you know, it's set up for mastering, which is just one of the Waves presets that I will probably tweak when the song is finished. So I haven't dropped an SSL channel strip on every channel. What I've done instead is I've dropped them on the submixes, and the interface in the Waves plugin version basically folds the channel strip into two, because otherwise it'd be long and thin, and people don't have long and thin monitors, strangely enough. So at the moment, all of these are just default. I haven't tweaked those at all, apart from the drum track, which I will mute the bass, which is the only other thing that I've worked on so far. I'll mute the send channel. Okay, I will bypass the SSL channel strip, and then what we are left with is my standard, and yes, once again, Superior Drummer Metal Foundry, Dev Kit, Devin Townsend's default kit, or Morgan Argren's default kit. So lots of nice brass, lots and lots of beefy toms, and a nice thwack on the snare drum. Okay, sounds pretty good as it is, because I've dropped Ableton's default drum bus processor onto it. So if I bypass that, now you are literally Ryako Music says, I'm here for a beefy tom. Well, there you go. I aim to please. So we are now down at the count-in with just Superior Drummer, no effects, nothing else, and then I'll drop the drum bus in on it so you can hear how that changes things. Bit flat, isn't it? So the transients are the initial hits on something that you want to pull out, or that you can shape and enhance and stretch so that they become more prominent, which is what the drum bus does. And it sounds like this. It's like, okay, now we're getting somewhere, right? But that's still really, it's not bad, it's fairly beefy. So what I'm going to do, I am going to delete this SSL strip and I'm going to add a new one, and I'm going to gradually tweak it so you can see what effect it has on the mix or on the drums. High mids are where things really get fun. Again. So it's clipping now, so let's dial it down a bit. Still clipping. Starting to sound a bit like Metallica's Black Album, says Reverb Motions. Yeah, so if I bypass it, it's a bit more boomy. I've got rid of some of the mids which might get in the way. And the reason I've done that is because I'm now going to feed the output from the Superior Drummer track, okay, into, so there we go, Superior Drummer post effects, because I want it to, well, there's nothing on there other than the drum bus, but the drum bus makes a difference. So I want the sound of what Superior Drummer is doing after the transient shaping enhance. That goes into this gated reverb channel. I have to turn it on, otherwise I won't hear it. Okay, so what I've done is I've dropped Ableton Live 11's new hybrid reverb. But any reverb with a decent hall type, fairly long decay is what you want. And you want a reverb that does not have much of a pre-delay. And I'll show you why that is in a minute. But if I turn off the noise gate and run the drums again, you're now hearing the drums and the noise gate. Sorry, you're hearing the drums and another channel, which is the reverb of the drums. Right, I'll drop in the reverb. So now what we do is we turn on the noise gate, and I dial down the threshold so that the noise gate chokes off everything apart from the big snare hit and the kick hit. So if you watch, you can see where the audio is. So it'll start miting now. And suddenly we've got that 80s drum sound. Right, let's go back to the gated reverb, and I'll tell you. So I'm using a medium dark plate reverb. Watch what happens, or listen what happens if I use like a cathedral, which has a pre-delay on it. Apart from anything else, it just becomes unmanageable. Horrible, isn't it? Doesn't work. Okay, let's try another one. Let's try Tartaruga Hall. Okay, it's quieter, so you drop the threshold down so it starts biting again. Completely different character, much more metallic. Array of Emotions goes, ew! Yeah, exactly. I don't like that one either. So let's go back to me medium dark plate. And suddenly it's David Bowie's Tonight. It's so you might have to play around. You can use any reverb that you've got in your DAW, and most DAWs come with a stock reverb. You can use any noise gate in your DAW, but you want it to cut off completely. So your return wants to be 0 dB. You want absolutely really, really fast attack, not absolute 0, but I mean, you can see it's 0.02 milliseconds. And it releases kind of on the beat, because you want some of it. You want to hear that beat of the snare and the kick resonating, because you're getting the effect. Okay, so what about the big old concrete diesel tank things? We have to know, says Array of Emotions. Okay, let's drop the inch and down oil tanks impulse response in there, shall we? I want max audio effect. I want convolution reverb. I want impulse responses. I want real places, because I dropped inching down into this. And somewhere in here, you will see it says inching down oil tank. And so this is what I was complaining about, right, on Sunday night's show. The only way that I can open the inching down oil tank, even though I've got a lovely library there in my Max for Live impulse responses of lovely impulse responses, the only way I can do it is just to go like that. Right, so now it's done it. So, David, without the drums, this is what, without the gate, this is what the drums now sound like. And if I hit pause, still going. Yeah, but you get the idea. Array of Emotion says, yes, it'll be amusing. Amusing, yes. Usable in a practical application for music, kind of not. So, but Yeah, interesting. Be quite a challenge to find a piece of music where that would actually fit. So what have we got now? We have got our gated reverb. It's enabled. We've got our drums. We've got our drum pattern. It'll do for a start. And we've got our SSL channel strip. And on the master bus, we've got, well, I'll turn it off so you can hear. This is just how it is from the individual mix channels. Master bus compressor on, and suddenly it all jumps into life. I rather like that. Okay, so that's 2 of our 5 top ways of getting the 80s sound ticked off, because we've got our SSL channel strip from Waves that replicates the tonal qualities of an SSL Series 4000 mixing desk. And we've dropped a second track, a parallel track of the output from my drum track, thrown it through a long plate reverb, and then dropped a noise gate on the end of that. And that gives us our wonderful gated drums sound. So what's next? What's next is, if I turn off the SSL channel strip, I recorded a just quick and dirty bass line. So here's the bass line. Rev Emotion says, needs some guitar. Yes. So let's turn on the SSL channel strip and do a bit of compressing, shall we? What's that sound like without it? Punching through a bit more, isn't it? So, what else do we want on that? I always drop the Waves bass rider on my bass, strangely enough, because it always seems to bed things down rather nicely. So if we go back, I really do need to sort these out into separate subfolders because it is getting a little bit out of hand. I tend to just use the clean and dynamic bass rider. So again, what's it sound like in the mix? Okay, you get the idea, right? So 80s bass was usually quite busy, but we're now going to go to play on the strengths of the SSL disc, which was its super bright sound. So for those of you who don't follow me on Facebook, I found an article about David Lynch's musical exploits from The Guardian from 2018. And Mr. Lynch, it turns out, has exquisite taste in guitars, because the publicity photograph of the esteemed film director posing cigarette in hand, he has one of these. So he has excellent taste. So 80s sound, to recap: SSL channel strip, gated reverb on the drums, punchy bass with quite a lot of compression, and the bass is busy. And then item number 4 of our 5 ways of getting the classic 80s sound is with a very, 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 very bright guitar. That's pretty bright. So what sort of stuff? And it's usually fairly high chords, held chords, that will then be drifting off into reverb. We'll handle the reverb within the DAW rather than on my effects board. Could do it on the effects board. The only trouble is with doing something that large scale to the guitar sound while you're recording it, it means it can't be undone afterwards. So these days I tend to record guitar relatively clean and then use something like Guitar Rig from Native Instruments or the Waves GTR plugin set to do the processing afterwards. But I've got a Zoom G3 down here that has a track called Taste-AC, so it's a very, very trebly Vox AC30 sound. So if I record something, I've no idea what key this is in, so I'll just play it through and noodle and see if I can come up with something. Kind of that sort of deal, isn't it? Yeah, well, I think we'll just do fewer strings. That'll do. I don't like that end bit, so we'll get rid of that. So now what we'll do is we'll add a bit of reverb to them. Hybrid Reverb does a fairly good job. There's even a preset called Guitar Tones, so let's see what that sounds like. And what do we end up with? the SSL channel strip. We'll loop that so I don't run out of guitar. Reactor Music says LOL. Well, I'm making it up as I go along. It's for educational purposes rather than anything else. And the mic is picking up me as well, so it's not exactly a pristine recording, which is why you can hear all the strange echoes and things. Right, let's loop that, and I will fiddle about with the EQ using the SSL channel strip again. That's more like it, isn't it? So that's kind of, the classic 80s bright. So bright guitar, punchy bass, gated reverb on the drums, and SSL channel strip. Reverb Motion says that guitar sound will never not remind me of Sultans of Swing. There you go. So we've got 4 elements of an 80s production. What else do we need? We need synths, because you've got to have 80s synths, and I have 80s synths in abundance. So if I go to Studio Cam, here we go. Back in Ableton, so I've only done it in mono, but that'll do. So once again, we fits about with the SSL channel strip and loop it so we get the EQ right. And that'll kind of do, I think. So Reactor Music says, do you have a favourite 80s synth? I really like all of them, I have to say. But the JX up there, the top one on the rank, that was the first polysynth I ever bought in about 1983. And it has some glorious sounds on it. So not just that brassy sound. I've programmed a few in of myself, so I'll give you a few of my cheesy 80s synth sounds. isn't bad. The French Doggy says the second one in arpeggios would be lush. Reverb Motion says, I like the ones that goes da 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 da. Yeah, indeed. Also, the Juno 60 at the bottom here is kind of a classic. Big fat sound. And then the Juno 106. Instant Ultravox, really. But I love that one, says Ryako Music. Yeah, so there are lots of very, very familiar tropes and things you can play with to create that 80s sound. But as De French Dogue just focused in on, it is absolutely about the snare. So, I mean, if I just play this again from the top. Where did my synth recording go? That's why I'd accidentally deleted it. Let's try that again, shall we? And yeah, so the gated reverb is just feed your drum track output into a separate audio track, put a long nice plate reverb type sound on it. So if I ditch the gated drums and just solo it, and then as soon as you drop the noise gate in, it's that dramatic contrast of hearing the room space and then not hearing the room space, and your ears going, no, that's not real. That's something different and interesting, and I'm really, really going to be forced to pay attention to it. But it sounds great in the context. I mean, I could probably rack the... You can overcook gated reverb. It's a bit much, isn't it? But I kind of like that, to be honest. That's my kind of things. So that is HFO's classroom tip for today. Is basically 40 years on, you too can sound like the 80s, and go out there and do so. The French Doggy says, I'm just checking the Wave Race 64 OST, the title screen theme to be exact. And one of the presets you played sounds exactly like one of the synths used in that song. That's why it sounded familiar to me. Yeah, there were only... one has to be frank, there were only so many things that synths in the 80s could do. They didn't exactly have a lot of controls. The JX3P, most of those controls are hidden anyway, and you had to buy a clip-on programmer that sat here. Otherwise, you literally just had to scroll through parameters, go, I want to adjust parameter 17, and then you had one slider to adjust everything with. And yet, I studiously sat down in my bedroom for hours, evening after evening, going, well, what happens if I do this? And taught myself how the different features of a synth, you know, its voltage controlled oscillators and its filters and all the pulse width modulation in the case of the Junos. Oh, they've all got different effects, but Ryako Music says, oh my God, a clip-on programmer. We're so spoiled nowadays. We kind of are. I mean, just the fact that the JX3P at the top there has, how many presets has it got? It's got 64 presets. That's it. That's your lot. And you can only change 32 of them. So the Juno at the bottom has even less than that. I think it has like about 50. Yeah, it's got 5 banks of 8 presets. So it's got 40 presets on it, which is nothing. Array of Emotion says, do you think there's going to be a time when tech is going to level out? Doesn't look like that way to me. I mean, I would have said 10 years ago, well, there's only so many ways that you can change a waveform. And then granular synthesis landed on us and all bets were off. And it was like, how is that noise being made? So somebody will invent a new mathematical transform for sound wave data, mangle it in ways that at the moment we have absolutely no idea how things, and then you can modulate stuff, you know, things like the Ocean Machine that I've got down here at my feet with the modulation on reverb. So you have things like shimmer and crystal and all those other presets. It's like, well, how's it doing that? It's not something that reverbs did back in the 80s. You know, in the 80s, you had the AMS RMX 16. It was in every studio. It has a little square matrix of 16 white buttons. So if you ever saw that little matrix of 16 white buttons on the right-hand side of some musician's 19-inch rack, it's like, oh, he's got an AMS 16 in there, and you can bet he'll be using it. And all the sort of artificial, strange, non-physical space reverbs kind of came in with the AMS RMX 16. I can't remember the last time there was a real game changer of an effects processor, because there is a company called Game Changer Audio who, bless them, actually feed guitar signals across a spark gap, and that's the distortion pedal, you know, which actually has a plasma tube in it, and you can see the spark flickering away as you're playing your distorted metal guitar solo. So yeah, who knows? But Ryako's right, you know, we are spoiled. I mean, the stuff that I have in Ableton, just in terms of effects processing, I mean, there's just on the default install of Live 11, you know, there are compressors and gates. There are loads of different types of compressors, like glue compressors, multi-band compressors. loads of different filters, lots of different modulators. So not just chorus and flanger, which is what I had when I started playing guitar back in the early 80s. I've still got them down there, Boss CE2 chorus and the Boss BF2 flanger, the light blue one and the purple one that you can turn up and make all sorts of strange and horrible noises with. These days, they're, Valhalla Dsp. Not only do they sell an absolutely extraordinary reverb, which, as you know, I'm very fond of because it's actually in the A-send in here. There it is. It's called Valhalla's Supermassive. Come on, there we go. Which is an absolutely fabulous reverb unit, and it's totally free. You just download it and plonk it in your DAW. They do an even madder thing, which is, let me give you a demo. So if we go to me other VST collection, which is the VST2s, and we go to Valhalla, there's one called Space Modulator, and that does very, very, very strange things to your guitar. So let's solo the guitar and you can hear it mangle it completely. And of course there's a preset category called Weird. Does what it says on the tin, I feel. I think Neo's just fallen out of the Matrix. And to basically cap off this evening and go back to the fact that it is my 42nd show, which is why I have my hitchhiker's towel proudly emblazoned over the bookshelves on my left. That particular modulation effect might sound a bit more familiar if I put vocals through it. Hello, it really is. It's quite noisy, isn't it? That really is quite noisy. So that's kind of where I thought I'd take you on this rather sort of foggy, or it was foggy this morning, foggy March evening here in the UK. Reacco Music says, "Oh Marvin," the late great Stephen Moore, who was a fine actor. Very sad we lost him last year. Reacco Music says, "Hey, where did you get the towel?" I actually bought that at Forbidden Planet back when Forbidden Planet was in Denmark Street in London, just off Charing Cross Road. And I bought it at the launch of one of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy paperbacks. And there was a very tall gent wearing a leather jacket standing at a desk with loads of these books and towels surrounding him. And it was Mr. Adams himself. So I did actually get to meet him, and he signed a copy of my copy of the Restaurant at the End of the Universe and of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, because of course I bought another copy so he'd sign it as well. I can't believe it's getting on for 25 years now, isn't it, since he passed away? Good Lord. But I thought, I'd get the towel out. I know where my towel is, and on show number 42 I thought I'd better commemorate the fact. And that's kind of it for this evening. No humongous avalanche of songs to play you, just noodling around with DAWs and playing with effects and seeing what you can come up with. And if you're inspired to make 80s music by cadging some of those tricks, and if you missed them, I'll put all of this on YouTube, so there will be plenty of opportunity for you to check out my elite producer skills. Yeah, right, as if I've got elite producer skills, but I'm learning, I'm getting there. I could not have done this sort of stuff even 2 or 3 years ago. It wouldn't have sounded that convincing 2 or 3 years ago. And part of that's the gear, part of that is me understanding what I'm doing with it. And it has to be said, watching lots and lots and lots of YouTube videos and RTFMing, which is such an underrated pastime, it has to be said. Although I do prefer the dead tree versions of manuals than the PDF versions that everybody has here. The Fresh Dogie says, insert flame emoji. Indeed. But that's kind of it. So thank you for joining me tonight. I will be back on Sunday night, probably not with the towel. I might be a little bit more up to date with the sort of music that I've produced between now and Sunday, or I might just chill out for a while, because I've been running at max pretty much since I got this desk in here and got everything back up and running, and I could carry on, but to be honest, at the moment it's like, dude, you need a few days just relaxing and reading books. So whatever the case, I will have something to share with you on Sunday. I do not know what it is because I haven't done it yet, but I'll do my best. So that's Sunday 2100 GMT, 2200 Central European time. I'll be back here next Thursday at 7:30 GMT, and the highlights will of course end up on YouTube. And that's kind of it. So whatever you're doing for the rest of the week, if you're going out, please wear a mask, please employ social distancing rules. I'm getting my first jab in a couple of weeks, and I am very, very much looking forward to that. Rev Emotion says, I suppose you could do the Is It 5090 Yet show. I think it will probably end up being something like that. Rev Emotion says, yay for needles. Man, I have had so many over my life that it's like, yeah, so. And yeah, I have friends who just, needles. But just, yeah, I've had worse. It's just a scratch. So, indeed. But whatever you're doing, stay safe, stay well, stay sane. Rebemsif, thank you. Glad you enjoyed it. And yeah, I'll kind of see you next time. I'll get in my time machine and travel forward 40 years, and who knows what we'll end up with then. So until then, night all.